And we are live. Oh, I forgot to give Isi her bone. Yeah. So what you have to do is you just have to tip the water out of the bucket, and then you put it on a little bed outside. Thank you. Good afternoon, people. There is nobody there, but good afternoon or evening, dependent on it's your morning, afternoon or evening. It's like going to feed chickens. I'll just move away once you put it down. I'll just move away once you put it down. Thank you. Hey, Christian. Could you... Thank you. The more and more I speak about this with people, the more and more I see and understand that a lot of people take this on board for themselves. They take on non-duality as an identity on the human level, and this is really unhealthy. For the personality to believe it's nobody, that's not what it's meant to be. Or for the personality to believe it's hopeless or meaningless, or that it's not going anywhere, or it's not the doer, that's not meant for the personality. Those words are trying to point to a recognition beyond the personality, but they're not meant to be food for the personality. If the brain structure tries to take that on board, then it ends up with a person that's not going to be very mentally healthy. On the human level, it's healthy to have goals. On the human level, it's healthy to have inspiration and passion and wants of what you want, of likes, of understanding what you like on the personal level. On the personal level, it's healthy to recognize what you don't want. On the personal level, it's healthy to like yourself and appreciate yourself, and to see that on the personal level you are worthy and lovable. Non-duality is pointing to something that's beyond that. It's the recognition that that personality is an experience, not the experiencer. When the personality tries to take that on board, it's the personality trying to fix itself with non-duality, and it won't. On the personal level, you have to rewire the wiring, you have to recondition it, like do emotional release or therapy. The problem is, on the personal level, is because you base your life on a lie. So you base your life on the idea that you exist as a separate person, then your thoughts spin round on this lie, like you're trying to find yourself as this separate person, which you can't. You can't find yourself because there is no self. So you're trying to find this self, you're trying to be this self, and as that self you're trying to control life and manipulate life and get love in the flow of life and avoid pain in the flow of life, which is all impossible. But it doesn't mean on that human level that the way to fix that human is to take on board the non-dual concepts. On the human level, you just recondition yourself to more balanced views. And that has to go along with the recognition that has to. If you're just doing therapy without this recognition that that is not you, then the therapy won't improve that much. There has to be the recognition simultaneously that that is not who you are. That's a functioning. That's a brain pattern. That's chemicals. That's neurons firing. And who you are is the experiencer of this. Some non-dual concepts can be healthy, like reconditioning, but I just meet so many people that are trying to tell themselves they are nobody when they feel like they are someone, and that they are nobody to get out of what they're feeling. And to me, when I was waking up, it was all about going into the feeling, and in the feeling I disappeared, not out of the feeling. In the experience I disappeared, not out of it. Out of it, of me trying to tell yourself you are nobody, you do not exist, you do not have feelings, there are no feelings, there is no doer, it's not their fault. All of that was a seeking in time to try to avoid what was happening. It was in the feelings that was the freedom. It was in the actual experience. So if I was feeling frustrated, it was inside that frustration, because inside everything, and what I mean by inside everything, I mean in this present moment, in what's actually happening, there isn't someone. There isn't somebody experiencing this. There isn't somebody moving in time. There is only life happening. Thoughts happening, feelings happening, seeing happening, hearing happening. But there isn't someone that's happening to. This is the suffering, is the claiming of all that. And that person that claims all that then claims non-duality, and it won't help you in the human level. On the human level, if you claim it, it will just be about avoiding. This is about an absolute diving into experience. This is coming back to what's actually happening, and that's where the freedom is. The freedom is in the sensation. It's in the fear. It's in the frustration. It's taking back that neurotic thinking. So the neurotic thinking is off, that it's frustrated, it hates this person, it's this person's fault, it's that person's fault. And it's taking that back down to just the fear underneath that. The fear of existing, the fear of being squashed, whatever it is. And in that fear, you disappear, because that fear belongs to everything. In the immediacy of everything that's happening, there's nobody that owns it. Life is carrying that fear. Life is carrying the thoughts. Life is carrying the feelings. Life is carrying the sensations. This is where freedom is. Oof. Ugh. So who is it that looks out of your eyes now? Who is it that's experiencing the sensations? Traditionally in Advaita, it's always going back that you're not the feelings, you're not the sensations. Ultimately, you get to the place where you're nothing and everything. You're not those things, but yet you're everything. And there is no divide, there's no consciousness that's separate from the appearances. But initially when you're speaking about it, it's much easier to say to someone, you're not the feelings, you're not the thoughts, you're not the ideas, you're not the sensations. But then eventually it's like you are everything, you're all those sensations. The consciousness is actually in appearances, and you're everything outside the body as well. Nothing and everything. But in the beginning it's easier to begin to hear, even though it's not an intellectual thing. This is about going beyond the mind, but it's almost like you have to bypass the mind. It's easier to explain the consciousness, that there is something that recognizes the person. There is something that recognizes the wall. There's something that recognizes this TV screen, computer screen. That's not you. The you that you take yourself to be is being seen. And who is it that recognizes that? It's not a thing, but there is seeing beyond the personal movement of attention, beyond the thoughts, beyond the feelings. And that seeing isn't separate from everything. And it's instant. It doesn't go into time. It's not about thinking. It's instant. And on one side it's empty, and on the other side it's full. And then there's also this sense of existence, this I am, this beingness. And this is love. That is the nature of life, is love. The nature of existence is love, is the nature of the experiencer is love. It's not a feeling as such. It's the sense of existence. It's love. The sense that this is. You can feel it as you begin to let go, the illusory you begins to let go. It can be sensed. This alive presence that loves itself, that's complete, that seeks nothing, that's behind all things. And it's seen that nobody ever suffered. There was no one that was suffering anything. There was an appearance of someone that suffered. There was an appearance of someone in pain, but ultimately nothing suffered. There is a brain that thinks about what's happened and what's going to happen, but the experiencer in this instant does not suffer. Is totally free. Now what happens is most people confuse the feeling part. So I say all this and then they feel things and they confuse it. So what I also address is I also address the person to an extent, and reconditioning the person and pointing out the illusions of the person. And that is for the person. That is to relax the person. I've noticed if I don't do that, then the person doesn't freaking listen to me. It just keeps going round and round in its habitual patterns. Not that the person actually can listen, but it's like that person doesn't settle down enough to be able to hear non-duality. It just keeps going off in its patterns of hopelessness, of despair, of wanting, of believing it's the best ever in the universe, whatever pattern it has. So I have to point some of that stuff out to be able to point beyond that. So a lot of people, when they come with questions, they're going to be talking about what they feel and how they don't want to feel that. And they're also going to not want to address that and try to just go to the empty looker to not have to deal with that. But it has to be dealt with to an extent. It's painful, and that's why the person doesn't want to deal with it. So when you ask questions, I'm happy to either answer questions about non-duality or the person on the personal level. Most people want to talk about the person and what's uncomfortable in their life, because really on the personal level you don't really want non-duality. What you want is just to have a happy, relaxed, easy life. And yet things keep going not as you've been told they should have. You are told that one day you're going to arrive, and one day you're going to be able to own all your possessions, and what you notice is you never arrive, and you can never really own something. You think you own your house, or you own your partner, or you own your kids, and then they have their independent free will, and they do all these things that make you feel insecure, or your money doesn't stay, you keep spending it, it keeps disappearing, and then your house is insecure. Whatever it is. So you have to deal with that to an extent. Also, I'm going to do some advertisements. I normally do those advertisements at the beginning, but I forgot. So I will just do the advertisements. I have to go to my website to do it. Okay, so on the 17th oh sorry, on the 29th of September, I'll be doing a talk in Barcelona, Spain. On the 30th of September and the 1st of October, I'll be doing a talk or talks just outside of Barcelona. And then the 4th of November to the 13th, I'll be doing a 7 or a 10-day retreat. You can either do 7 days or 10 days. And you can find all of that on my website, which is just my name. Just type in my name. If you don't know my name is Harry. Hi Ron. So you can either write questions or you can call me. So this is from Ron. I understand what you say quite deeply, I think, but after 65 years of all the emotions, deep conditioning and conflict on many issues still present, is the final answer to our... You can skip answer. You say our situation very well. The suffering continues no matter what, but the understanding you give and others does help. You see, Ron, the problem is that's too short. Like, what you say to me is too short. I can't get a gist of it. Like, I can't get a gist of you and your dynamics and what you're saying to me from just that short. So if you want to go into it deeper, then you can call and we can go through it on a deeper level. But basically you want to tell me that suffering still exists, but are you aware that is just a thought? It's not true. You made up the word suffering and you made up the word still and you made up the word time. But to you that most probably seems really true, but it's not true. But you're maybe addicted to that way of thinking. And so now I can even hear your mind. Well, how do I stop that addictive thinking? Well, you just stop it. You just stop. And you go to the feeling, you acknowledge that you feel helpless and hopeless. So you break the thinking, you acknowledge you feel helpless and hopeless. You acknowledge where that feeling is in your body. And you allow it to be there. And it will change and it will transform. And if you're trying to give me some victim story that it doesn't, and that you've done 65 years of trying to change yourself, I don't believe you. It's just a story that you're trying to present to me to buy into. Maybe there's all types of projections that I can imagine that you're projecting, that I'm cold or that I don't understand. I do very well understand. It's not true. Thanks, Ron. If you want to go into it deeper, either book a session with me or call in. Most of the time people don't like to call in because they know it's recorded. Hi, Jason. Wish me a happy birthday. Okay, happy birthday, Jason. How old are you, Jason? Should I try and guess? Once when I was like 21, I said to someone, guess how old I were, and they were like 29. I was like, oh! And they weren't joking. They really thought I was 29. Hi, Lisa. This is from Martin. I tend to be sensitive character, but after awakening and what teachers tend to call opening of the heart, the sensitivity became a lot stronger. The school I go to, yes, Lisa, I am 21, is really small, and everyone there is really traumatized, suffering, and feels really separated, and it feels like I can sense all of it. It's almost unbearable. I tend to fall asleep when I'm in school. I went to my doctor a few days ago, and when she was looking at an injury I have in my leg, I started to sense her genitals on an energetic level. It was like her genitals were being pulled towards me, like I was some kind of magnet or something like that. Do you have anything to say about the sensitivity towards other people's states and intentions and your own experience with this? Also, I tend to fall back into the dream when I'm at school as well. Do you have any tips? I'm sorry, the reason I'm laughing is just because it's just so cute the way that you said I started to sense her genitals on, it was pulling me, her genitals on an energetical pulling, being pulled towards me like I was some kind of magnet or something like that. I know this is just like the worst to laugh at that, but it's just funny to me. I say I do it in innocence. I'm not trying to be mean. I just find it really cute. I sometimes find people's genitals pull me towards them as well. It happens to me. I'm sorry that I'm making fun, Martin. Well, I'm not really, otherwise I wouldn't do it. I'm trying to say I appreciate you, and I'm not meaning to put you down, but I am making fun. Okay, so back to the other part of the question. Change the freaking environment then. Go to a different school. Go to a school that's into this. Like, isn't that in America, the Maharaj University? That's a university, so you can still study, but it's like a they're really into, what's it called? Like energies and sensitivity and meditation. You know, I can just imagine that this is going to be the same issue for you in 5 years and 6 years, and in 10 years it will then be in the workplace, and you've just got to be realistic about this. If you're going to go out into society and you are an empath, I can't even say it, empathy character, then you're going to have to acknowledge this. Don't let this be something you get stuck on. You're young, so your brain will change easily. You've got to put yourself in good environments. Like, I was so wise when I was younger, even though I was incredibly stupid in many ways. I was wise because I thought to myself, I don't want to start my life without having worked out why I'm alive. So I kind of like just threw myself into this subject and put myself in environments where it was all about this subject, where this subject thrived, where I was being reflected back by like-minded people. I didn't just stay in regular society and then complain about regular society. You'll just get stuck in this way of thinking. You know, it's like a thought pattern, a thought process about other people. And the more it goes on, you know, the more it's going to grow, that thought process about other people and other people's energies and what they're making you feel. You've got to address it now. You've got to explore it now. You've got to seek out ways in order to turn your energy off. But don't let yourself be victim to this. The victim mentality that this is happening to me. I'm overwhelmed by other people's feelings. I'm too sensitive to other people's feelings. Act, do something. And at the same time, see that none of that is who you are. There's a freedom beyond your sensitivity. Who's experiencing that? Who experiences that person that doesn't or does like something, that's too sensitive or not sensitive? And then on the human level, stop blaming other things. See that's something that happens to you, and then do something, change something. Learn about empathy people, empaths, about empathy people. Seek therapists in this, seek books in this, understand it. Understand your conditioning, understand your makeup. Don't get stuck in repetitive thoughts that this is hurting you, this is damaging you. Because those repetitive thoughts keeps encouraging the brain in a particular way. Maharishi University. Yeah, thanks, Phyllis. Hey, Ron. This is from Ron Davis. We've had 2 runs tonight. A do run, run, a do run, run. So you said passions and wants are okay on the personal level, but aren't they all futile for real satisfaction? Of course, I also said that. But on the human level, it's healthy to have goals. It's healthy to have expectations of what you want to come for the future. When I'm saying that they're not happiness, they're not freedom, then you think, okay, you've got to chuck all that out of the window. And then what you fall into, or what people often fall into, is hopelessness and despair. It's hopeless, I can't do anything. And they don't see that on the personal level, they're just taking on board what I'm saying, and they're trying to become what I'm saying on the personal level. What I'm saying is that wants, it's okay to have wants. It's okay to want to buy a house, or want to go for a walk, or want to have kids. But none of that is going to give you the love you seek. That is the mistake. The personal entity sucks it in and then believes that pleasures are going to give me the love I seek. They're just going to be pleasure, and they'll come and go. You'll like it and not like it. But on the human level, that's important to have goals, to have wants, to work, to contribute, to have companionship. I see so many people into non-duality that are taking that on board on the personal level, and they're becoming unable to act. They're using it as an excuse to fuel depression. And this isn't what non-duality is about. This is why I began to bring in talking to the person on the personal level. Because non-duality is the most beautiful subject there is, and I find it incredibly sad when the person uses it to beat itself up, to stay where it is, to stay stuck. Nothing in this world will satisfy you. Nothing will give you what you're looking for. Presence is what you're looking for. The actual experience of what's happening is what you're looking for. So say if you want to buy the house, it's the very act of going to the estate agent. It's the act of going to look at the house. It's the act of signing the contract. This is the freedom. The freedom isn't when you get the house, you'll suddenly arrive and then you'll be there, because then one day the house will go, just like everything. It's not that you don't need, you're not to get them, that you've got to cut off at all. It's seeing that none of that is the love you seek. The love you seek is what's actually happening, is your nature, is presence. This is the difference. So on the personal level, if the person begins to think, I've got to stop wanting, I've got to stop doing things, I mustn't have any expectations, it's like that's not healthy for the person, because the person should have expectations that the other person treats you with dignity, that you're enjoying doing what you're doing. Don't get these two confused. And trust me, I did it all. I got it confused. I got myself well depressed with non-duality for a period. A lot of people do. But see that that person that wants things and doesn't want things isn't the experiencer. It's an experience. That's not who you are. It's a play happening in who you are. Thanks, Ron, for your question. Hi, Andy. Hi, Lisa. Love your live stream. It's so amazing to hear your voice, the words which you say. Thanks, Andy. Addy. Sorry, Addy, not Andy. Addy. And although you're thousands of miles away, I feel your proximity. And when I see your eyes, then I have the feeling that I look in my eyes. Then there comes a feeling from a deep presence when I lose me in you. But yes, I know ultimately nothing has relevance in this life. From my heart to your heart, Addy. Thank you so much for being. Oh, thanks, Addy. Hey, Chris. Hi, Lisa. It was nice to meet you at Hebden Bridge. Yeah, I enjoyed being in that energy. Yeah, nice to meet you too, Chris. Hi, Michelle. Oh, I think there is sound, Michelle. I think that's something to do with you. I tested it already. Okay. Hi, Deanna. So this is from Open Eye Hun. Hello, lovely one. Hearing me complaining about life, you like to state that everything is in this life is a gift. I'm afraid that agreeing with you is not the job of this lifetime of me. But even in the case, I cannot avoid the question, who gives this precious gift to who? Why are you asking me that question? You should be asking yourself that question. I can say it in words, but that's nothing. You've got to experience that for yourself. Who is it that's experiencing those thoughts in that body-mind mechanism of Open Eye Han? Who experiences that person? Who's looking? Who's hearing? Who's speaking? I was reading this quote today and it reminded me of a quote by Carl Jung, something along the lines of, we fear our darkness. We think we fear our darkness, but in reality we fear our light. I'm sure he quoted it much better than me, Carl Jung. Hi. I can't really remember exactly. Hey Julia. Much love. Say hello to Mark for me. Ah, that's all the questions for tonight. I stunned everyone. I'm curious if you knew Nathan Gill. I love his writing clarity. It really let me let go. Stop seeking and just to be like your talks remind me also. Yeah, I used to go and see Nathan Gill live when I was younger, in my youth. He actually came to one of my talks once. He's a nice guy. Hi Lisa, is there darkness or is it my fair to lose me? If there is only light, where does fair come? I'm sorry, that doesn't make sense in English. Sorry. I'm not answering any more open eye, hun. I've answered one. That's all you get. Hi Lisa, this is from Deanna. I have a feeling for a couple of days that I'm on a personal level and avoiding experiencing my true nature. I know what I truly And also I feel that the discovery brought possibilities of happiness and joy that the character is afraid of. My person has fear to act towards pleasure and keeps staying in contexts that trigger fear of rejection and so on. Today I was watching Pinocchio and saw myself well in that story. Does the transition towards new behaviour that reflect presence take time? I rather act on what I see as true in my heart, but there's not always clarity on that. On the human level, you're allowed everything you want, Diana. Or Deanna, I'm not sure if it's Diana or Deanna. Diana, I'll say. Like everything you want, you're allowed. You're allowed to be loved. You're allowed to want things. You're allowed to love. You're allowed to feel love. You're allowed to enjoy what you have. You don't have to fear money. You don't have to fear the future. Just feel that you're okay. And in that, as you stop seeking for that in time, and as that begins to resonate, you begin to disappear. You are. This is. There's nothing which you think is true. But your mind keeps going off believing something's true, and it's so quick that it's unconscious. You just feel the contraction and the tightness in your tummy. So just acknowledge that. See that there is an experiencer of that. That's not who you are, and allow it to be. And see that you're allowed the opposite. So if you feel not enough or not good enough, you're allowed to feel you are enough and that you are good enough. You are totally lovable. You're perfect exactly the way you are. It's just an energy inside of you that is rejecting yourself. And while you reject yourself, you try to find the end of that in time. And you won't. You find it here, in this. Second chance. I don't understand what that means. Hi Lisa. I contemplate a lot about having kids. There is big love here inside of me, but there is a big fear to have children to this world of struggle and separation. Can you help me with clarity on the subject? I doubt it. I can't help you decide if you want kids or not. Then if you have kids and you don't like it, then you can come back and blame me. What are you asking for? Why do you need someone else to help you with that? What are you looking for here, really, in asking me? Really, honestly, truly, what are you asking for? I used to do that when I was younger. I used to look for people's advice all the time because I was scared of choices. I was scared of making decisions in which I would be unhappy in the future. And if I let other people make it, then it made me feel safer. So what are you feeling now that I ask and say all of this? What does it make you feel? So if you could write the answer. Go into your body and see what feelings come when I say all that. Oh, the video cut out apparently when I was speaking, so she couldn't hear it all. She says, "There's fear in my body and uncomfortableness." So this is just what you need to explore, is that fear and uncomfortableness. So just recognize where that fear is, recognize where that uncomfortableness is. And you can just speak it out a bit. I'm afraid of making a mistake. I'm afraid of not being good enough. afraid of regretting it. I'm afraid of not doing it. I'm afraid of being alone. Whatever it is, just speak it out a little and then acknowledge it's not true. That none of that is true. It's an effect that's happened from believing you're separate. So just acknowledge that, and then see that who you are is this presence, this alive presence. And see that most likely your question towards me was out of fear of making choice. You weren't really asking me the question you were asking me. You were seeking to not feel afraid. So just recognize that and see that you are the alive presence that experiences that. And just allow it to be there. And see it's not true. This isn't true. This isn't reality. And when the choice needs to be made, the choice will be made about the children. It's not down to you. It will happen. Just deal with what's currently happening. Deal with the current sensations. What's happening now? What's happening here? I feel afraid of having kids. I feel I want kids. Thank you. Thank you very much. This is from Diana. When you said I was not allowing myself to be loved, I burst into tears. I felt that contraction in the tummy, but didn't know what it was. Yeah. A lot of our suffering is to do with when the separation happened, we then began to form these ideas that we're not lovable, that we're not enough, that we need to be better than what we are. Because separation always came with the seed that there's something missing. So then that separate person started to make up all these reasons. We're not lovable, we're not enough. Because it feels like, separation feels like you lost love. So then it gets projected onto ourselves, or it gets projected onto the other. And just recognize it and see it's not true, that you are lovable. And notice when it appears in your life and when you seek from that. So when you're interacting with someone, when you're in a relationship, just notice, okay, I feel not loved now. Or I feel really like not loved, and then when you look at me, I feel really loved. Just recognize that's happening. You are absolutely lovable. You're perfect the way you are, and there's nothing you've ever done that's out of line. Thanks, sweet. You keep cutting out and the voice is out of sync, and I can see in the comments others are having same problems too. Just thought I'd let you know. Oh. Sorry guys. I realise that the numbers keep dropping dramatically and then going up. Down and up, down and up. I've heard that there is a problem with the iPad and that. Other days it's been okay. I can't think what I don't think there's anything I can do, to be honest with you. I've got the highest Wi-Fi, fastest Wi-Fi possible, I think, unless there's higher now. Sorry guys, sometimes that just happens. Let me go and have a look. Wow, you can hear my breathing, the microphone is so good. Wow, you can hear my breathing, the microphone is so good. Is that my breathing? Oh, it's not my breathing. You can hear my breathing, the microphone is so good. A little bit trippy. Yeah. Your internet may be messed up, by the way. Yeah, I don't know what I can do, guys. My internet's very high. Je ne sais pas. Je ne sais pas. Hi Lisa, can you talk more about what experience you had leading up to your non-dual awakening? I found to think about aware of things that are commonly uncomfortable for people to think about, like an afterlife, aliens, slavery and war, much easier after I lost my fears for survival and others, etc. So why are you thinking about the afterlife and aliens and slavery and all those things? This is most probably something psychological and not to do with non-duality. And when I say it's something psychological, I mean that it's to do something that you're going through psychologically at the moment. It's hard to put into words. So it's like you're having fears or doubts or problems in your mind, and so your mind is taking it to the most extreme. And in one way, these things can be good to contemplate, to open up your mind and open up doors to different ways of thinking. But if you're repetitively thinking about it, then it's most probably a feeling of you, of helplessness, and then it imagines all these things that it's helpless about, and it encourages that feeling and encourages that thought pattern, and the mind keeps repeating that thought pattern. So every time it happens, just recognize it, recognize the feeling of helplessness, acknowledge where it is in the body, and see that it's not true, that who you are isn't that you are presence, and that that's not beneficial to you, and just let it go. Or let it be there, but see that it's not true, not true, not true. The problem with these thoughts and feelings is the belief in some way that they're true, they have truth. And it's like the person gets sucked into them and believes their reality. So the experience is I was very lucky, or lucky is maybe not a right word because I don't believe in luck as such. It just is the karma, the play of things. It's just the energy. But my energy seeked this subject very young, and it suffered very young. And so in Buddhism they say the first realization that you have to have is that life is suffering, and I really realized that. I really saw so much suffering as a child, mental and physical suffering. I watched a lot of it happen outside of me. There was a lot of illness in my family, and so I really got to see another dimension than what my friends saw. And because our society doesn't acknowledge it and just sees it as dark and bad, it's like I really recognized this dark side of life, this darkness, and it really affected me. It really had such a big effect on me. I didn't know what to do with it. And so what it did was it led me to ask bigger questions than a lot of my peers. My peers were just looking for the next pleasure, for the next thing that society told them. And I was like, hang on, I have to know why I'm alive. I cannot make any choices when I don't know why I'm alive. And to me, I thought that my peers were crazy, that they could just do the regular and not ask questions. But actually I see it was because at such a young age, I couldn't do anything else. I couldn't cope having seen that much. I had to ask questions about it, and I was so dedicated to it, so dedicated, that I just gave up everything for it. And I was really lucky because, you know, as you get older you accumulate things and you get things, and I had nothing that I'd got really. I began to be quite successful at theatre writing. I was a playwright, and I began to be quite successful and make a name for myself and make lots of contacts. And I also, well, I suppose I did have actually quite a lot of things. I had a house, and I suppose I did, but for some reason my brain didn't see them as a lot of things. I had a lot of opportunities, I suppose, but I just wasn't interested. I was interested in theatre writing, but the thing about theatre writing is it seemed to me similar to spirituality, because in theatre writing it was like I was emotionally releasing. I was understanding the stories inside of me. I could see by what I was writing and the way in which I'm writing, I could see what was happening in my body, my mechanism. And also I was reading books like, I forget the name of them, but I was reading this series of books. They were a trilogy all about emotional release through writing. So when I was writing my theatre plays, it was like an emotional release. It was like the stories I was stuck in my brain, I was kind of writing them into theatre. And I think that's why people liked and why my plays did well, was because they came really from my heart and they were so raw. And I think that was unique about them. But luckily I didn't feel like I was giving that up. Now when I look back, I realise I really gave it up. Like at the time I didn't really realise that. So I just gave up everything. I saw that my life wasn't worth anything if I just pursued the material, because internally I would be suffering. And I realised that my internal state was more important than the external things that I collected and my achievements. And so I was lucky that I went and really dived into seeking spiritually or non-duality. And I fell in love with non-duality, and I listened to it, and I had recognitions and I had awakenings, but I still felt uncomfortable internally. I still felt emotionally disturbed. I felt overwhelmed by things. I felt uncomfortable. Even though I'd had profound realizations and really saw very clearly who I was, there was still this energetic involvement in personhood, and that seemed to take many years of emotionally releasing, of understanding my energetical body, massage, therapy, all these different things. But I was so dedicated. Everything was about that. Everything I did was about that. And I meditated and everything. And I was just so eager to jump into everything. I was so eager to feel and to really go beyond. And eventually something snapped. And it wasn't for me. It was like an energetic thing that happened. I was sitting there, and it was at the moment that there was no spirituality, but I'd just been through a lot of loss, a lot of things like I'd had to let go of again. And I'd done that many times in my past. I was 30 and there was a lot of things I once again had to let go of, but this time was different. It's like it was the same. So even though there were a lot of things I was letting go of, it was the same I am no matter where I went. It was the same presence. So even though there were things that were missing, it was the same presence. There was the same sense of aliveness. There was the same base. And then when I was sitting in a cafe not thinking about anything, this break began to happen where that presence stopped being inside of me, and it felt like it was going out of my eyes into the room. And then this energetic shift happened, and it changed everything, and it changed the person a lot. But there's still emotional release that I do, there's still conditioning that needs adjusting, but it did change a lot on the human level. But there was just like a break that happened where the human was no longer the experiencer, and it was just really, really clear without a doubt. But it wasn't for me, it wasn't for the person, it just was the way it was, and it felt like love. Presence was love. Suddenly love was everywhere, reflected everywhere, and was everything. And that was a huge awakening. Maybe it was, we could just call it an awakening. And then since then there's been more and more over time the integration on the personal level to that. It did change a lot on the personal level, like instantly it changed a lot, but it's still, and there's still an understanding of what happened. It was funny, when I started speaking, I never intended to be a teacher. It was like I had begun to teach, but more it was like an expression of joy. And still sometimes it's a little confusing, because I understand that that's the role I am to most people, but it's also like an expression of joy. But then after now doing it for so many years, I also realise on the personal level I have to teach to an extent, because I've seen so many people fall into this hopelessness with non-duality, and that's not what non-duality is meant to be about. Non-duality is love, but it's that people take on non-duality and they become hopeless with it. They believe I am nothing, which is really destructive on the personal level, to believe you're nothing. And they've had a trauma as a child, feeling that they're nothing or not important, and then they take that thought and add it to that, and they just keep repeating that trauma, and they don't see beyond it. So on the human level, on the teaching level, I've had to, there's two different ways in which I speak. There is speaking about non-duality, which is a joy to express, and then there's the speaking about the person, which is a joy to express, but it's not like speaking about non-duality. Non-duality is my true passion. But I see that as a way, when you're speaking about it, you have to speak about both. You have to stop the person falling into a pit of despair and hopelessness, because that's a lot of the time what the tendency of the person does when it begins to see that there is nothing in the world but fulfill it. Before, it believes the objects will fulfill it. I will get there, I will get there. And then when it begins to see it won't get there, it then's like, I'll never get there. It's hopeless, and it goes into that trauma. It's been running away from that trauma of hopelessness, and then it falls from one side, I am going to get there, to I'm not going to get there. And it's not true. That hopeless side isn't true either. It's a trauma from the past. It's your fear on the human level, your deepest fear. I kind of find this funny. This that drink bottle. It's like I'm really speaking profound stuff, and then like a child. That's what life's like. It's such a joke life. Like, there's so much humour in life. Like the fact that we have to eat so much is very funny. But we take it as normal. We're like, that's normal. We just eat. Eating again. And the very act of eating is a funny thing, that we have to eat. And then it comes out the other end. It's funny, but we just take it as norm. We're like, well, that's the way it is. We're these skin things that walk around with blood inside and internal organs, and we eat other objects. and then they come out and they give us energy. It's funny. We have to go to charging stations just like cars, but we believe, unlike cars, that we're not robotic. We believe that we've got free will and personal choice. Imagine if the car thought that. So we're driving it, and inside the car we put a program, and it's like, I'm turning left here, and then the car turns left, turning right here, and then the car turns right. And it gets all confused because it believes it's got free will. Oh my God, what happens if I don't turn left when I've got to turn left? What happens if I turn right? What happens if I go straight on? What will other people think of me? There's lots of questions again. This is from Ron. I can't seem to frame this as a question, but you may find this interesting though. It is hard to put briefly. I'm totally unique from anyone else, yet you describe us to all be what we are just as we are. If anyone is enlightened, they can only be what they are, whether they like it or not. All that is a vibration of and inside of what I am. I see the activity of my individual self to be like movement inside a snow globe of the universe, and I am what is outside the snow globe. Yeah, but do you notice, Ron, that that's just a thought, all that you've told me? That the non-dual realization has got nothing to do with thoughts. Who is it that sees that thought? Who is it that describes that? Who is it that tries to find that in words? Inside or outside of the snow globe? Who is it that knows those words? There is something that's wordless, that's undescribable, and is present beyond words. Thanks, Lisa. I mean, I feel fair when thoughts arise that everything will finish, and what after that? Your questions, Taj Beer, are like riddles to me. I don't know what you mean. I do not know. Je ne sais pas. It's not going in and out now. Oh, thanks, Julie. Yeah, funny. Don't know why it was going in and out. I'm having an impulse to sing to you all about going in and out. It's a strong impulse. I'm trying to resist the impulse to sing to you, because I can even feel how the song goes. And then Julie's going, don't do it, no. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I can't get in and out of my head. It's very similar to the Khaleesi song. Okay, let's try and move on. Yes, the description is never it. The Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao. Hi, Raphael. Hey, Nicholas. It's mainly fear of sadness and not able to handle their pain. I'm an empathy person also, but I will look to that. Thanks a lot. Oh, with pleasure. Well, thanks guys, it's lovely to share with you. Sorry if the internet was going in and out. There won't be any stream this Wednesday evening, but remember to always check my website, so I won't see you guys again until Sunday. Okay, thanks. Bye.